As you guys are probably aware, I am on a mission to live my life joyfully in the present moments that I have been given. And you guys probably also know that I am a creature of extreme habit, routine, systems, and checklists, and all that stuff, because I really do believe that those things help me with that goal. But since about the beginning of October, I started realizing that those things can also be a hindrance to my goal. And to help explain this, I'm gonna give you guys a spur of the moment analogy that I thought of when I was feeding the dogs, and that is pottery. Now, I don't have clay here, but imagine there's a big lump of clay, right? And the wheel's turning and all that stuff, it's going. But what happens if the wheel spins too much or too fast? What's gonna happen to the wet clay pot? It's gonna go vroom, and it's not gonna be a pot anymore, it's gonna be a plate. Now, I think the same thing is true with this goal and the habits and systems we use to accomplish that goal. The same thing goes for the kiln. Too much heat is gonna crack the pot and it's not gonna work. So knowing a little bit about my personality and possibly your personality, we have a tendency to hyper-focus on some things, to hyper-focus on the systems or the habits. And just like a clay pot, if we hyper-focus on keeping the clay wet as we mold it, the mold is gonna start suffering. And maybe hyper-focused isn't the right word, because I don't think I'm really ever that focused. Preoccupied is probably a better word. I really like this shot, guys. It's so good. I think this preoccupation can take us away from the goal of living life joyfully in the moment. And here are some cues that I see in myself that kind of alert me of like, okay, your habits and your systems are starting to take the place of that original goal. Oscar, Dusty, Oscar, Dusty, don't do it. Dusty. The dogs almost took off after some deal. Let me show you. Here we go, digital zoom for the win. There they are. And there's another loner. Warning sign numero uno. I get all worked up when my routines or I can't get my habits down or my day doesn't go how I planned it, and I get all worked up in a knot because I didn't get done what I wanted to get done. That's sign number one, that the means are starting to replace the goal that I have. Warning sign number two, my productivity starts to slump and my energy levels throughout the day start to slump. That is another sign that the means are starting to replace the goal. Total disclaimer, this is not my truck, but warning sign number three is that my routine is consistently in conflict with my inspiration to do certain things. So if your routine is consistently conflicting with your desire to do certain things, then that's a sign that the means are starting to replace the goal. I had to come back to this shot because, I mean, look at it. It's so good. Here's how all this played out in my life. Now, early October, I released a video called Burnout and stuff like that. It was a little clickbaity, but it was a fun video to make. But anyways, that's besides the point. But how it started playing out in my own life is that I started realizing when I woke up, the first thing I wanted to do was write music. And I also started realizing that the earlier I composed, the better the composing session was. But I started to realize that my routine was in conflict with that initial desire to compose. And I also realized two other things. The earlier I composed in my day, the better the composition session was. And if I did my devotions in the evening or during lunchtime, they were also improved. So I made a switch a couple weeks ago when I came here to take care of my parents' home. Now, the first thing I do when I wake up is I make a massive omelet and I will listen to a strategy video about StarCraft. Laugh all you want, but me and my brother are playing that a lot and it's just really fun. And then I go compose, and I will compose all up until the inspiration runs out or I have a class to go to, and usually it's the latter. And then I take a break and I'll do devotions later in the day as a break, and that has been incredible. Now, here is the moral of the story, as Aesop would say. If these three warning signs or any other frustrations are starting to pop up in your life, then maybe it's time to consider the idea that your routines, your habits, and other things in your life are starting to conflict with that end goal of joyfully living life in the present moments we've been given. And I'm sure that that goal is common amongst the vast majority of the human population. And here's the deal. These changes don't have to be massive. I would also add that I have been waking up later and going to bed later because I realized that in the ups and downs of my energy and mood throughout the day, I had two bursts of inspiration to write music, right when I woke up, and then again at about 7 or 8 o'clock at night. But I also knew that if I wrote then and went to bed at 10, I wouldn't fall asleep until 12. So I kind of pushed things back to go to bed later at like 11 to 11:30 so that I could write music again and still be able to go to bed. But that contradicts the status quo of high performance. Go to bed early, wake up early, do the hardest thing first. But that has not been my experience to performing at my best all the time. It's gotta work for you. And if you're in a routine for a few months and it's working great, then all of a sudden it doesn't, change the routine and try it out. Keep those cornerstone habits, but try changing some stuff. I promise you it's gonna be amazing. I'll see you guys in the next one.